Hi, it's Monday, the 27th of December. And I continue to read and wonder my way through the book of Genesis. And today we're in Genesis chapter 23. We're going to read the whole chapter. That's verses 1 through 20. You'll discover as I read it, there isn't a place to sort of stop and carry on. Um, you may recall that when we finished the week last week, finished chapter 22, the Abraham and Isaac story was complete, where Abraham went to sacrifice his son Isaac as per God's request. Angel of the Lord stopped him, and then at the end of that chapter, we hear that Abraham's brother has 12 kids. So that's kind of where we ended up. Now we're going to jump ahead in time again. And so at this point, we're going to open up with, well, basically, this is with the death of Sarah. And by the time Sarah dies, she is 127 years old. That means that her son Isaiah is 37 years old. So if you try to figure out when it was that Abraham went to sacrifice Isaiah, this is at least 20 years we've jumped ahead. So a couple of decades without being told anything. And that does always make me wonder. As you heard me wonder last week, like what happened with Abraham and Sarah, Abraham and Isaac in terms of their relationship? We're not told. It's just left, and we get to fill that in ourselves because we just jumped 20 years ahead. So let's do that. Let's jump 20 years ahead and see what happens. So it's Genesis 23, verses 1 to 20. Sarah lived 127 years. This was the length of Sarah's life. And Sarah died at Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham went in to mourn for Sarah and to weep for her. Abraham rose from beside his dead and said to the Hittites, I am a stranger and an alien residing among you. Give me property among you for a burying place, so that I may bury my dead out of my sight. The Hittites answered Abraham, Hear us, my lord. You are a mighty prince among us. Bury your dead in the choicest of your burial places. None of us will withhold from you any burial ground for burying your dead. Abraham rose and bowed to the Hittites, the people of the land. He said to them, If you are willing that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me and entreat me, Ephron son of Zohar, so that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which he owns, and it is at the end of his field. For the full price let him give it to me in your presence as a possession for a burying place. Now Ephron was sitting among the Hittites, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the hearing of the Hittites, of all who went in at the city gate of his city, No, my lord, hear me. I give you the field. I give you the cave that is in it. In the presence of my people, I give it to you. Bury your dead. Then Abraham bowed down before the people of the land, and he said to Ephron in the hearing of the people of the land, If you will only listen to me, I will give you the price of the field. Accept it from me, that I may bury my dead there. Ephron answered Abraham, My lord, listen to me. A piece of land worth 400 shekels of silver. What is that between you and me? Bury your dead. Abraham agreed with Ephron, and Abraham weighed out for Ephron the silver that he had named in the hearing of the Hittites, 400 shekels of silver, according to the weights current among the merchants. And so the field of Ephron in Machpelah, which is east of the Mamre, the field with a cave that was in it, and all the trees that were in the field, throughout this whole area, passed to Abraham as a possession in the presence of the Hittites, in the presence of all who went in at the gate of this city. After this, Abraham buried Sarah, his wife, in the cave of the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and the cave that is in it passed from the Hittites into Abraham's possession as a burying place. So there it is. And I guess it's a story of how life goes on, which we've had a couple of those before. We just jump a period of time, and it's like, and life goes on. Before it was Abraham negotiating for water rights, right, access to the well with the local king, and that was before the Isaac story, the sacrifice of Isaac story. So it's interesting. These are sort of interspersed for me, anyway. There's stories about that have to do with the covenant with God, and then there's stories about just basic civic politics. And a story about God, and then another story that isn't really about God. This is just about life. Um, does it show Abraham growing, changing, developing, a progression? I don't know. I don't know that I see a moral progression. I do. I mean, I have wondered about that and seen ups and downs, backs and forths, with what I would call sort of moral progression, moral growth. Um, but here is now Abraham buying land. Abraham has been a nomad, and goes into this negotiation recognizing that he is a stranger and an alien residing among you. Interesting term, because he's certainly not a stranger because they recognize him. You are a mighty prince among us, they say. So I mean, Abraham is known, but he's known as somebody from away. And those of us who have grown up in tight knit communities know what that means. Somebody's from away, on Manitoulin Island and Newfoundland, and in small communities that I've been part of. Yeah, you are from away, even if you've been there for 30 years, because your parents weren't from there, or your grandparents weren't from there, and so it's like, oh yeah, no, yeah, that's the new guy. Yeah, even though the new guy's been there for a generation and a half, but not there as long as everybody else. So Abraham is always that new guy, but now he has bought land, and they have sold him land. So I'm not sure what to. I mean, he doesn't do it until Sarah dies. Why? Is this Abraham always waiting for the right moment, but not sure when it is? And now that Sarah's gone, if not now, when? That kind of feeling, or is that I don't know? Is that I got? There's another choice. I don't know what it is. Why now? For me, this reminds me of those opportunities that we sometimes take and sometimes miss out on when things happen in our lives. It can be it can be a birth story, or it can be a death story. It can be tragic, but taking that moment and saying, okay, so if my life is being pivoted, I too will engage in the pivot. So we know that Sarah has died, and we are told here that he mourns and weeps for her. This is hard for him that Sarah has died. I'll trust the text on that. So this is hard for him, but rather than just grieve and mourn, he recognizes that this is a pivot moment in his life, and so he pivots. So now is the time to buy the land. Why not 10 years before? Well, maybe it was a good idea to do it 10 years ago or 20 years ago, but we didn't get around to it. But right now, everything in my life is changing, so let's make that change. I suppose I could try to preach it, although it would be a weak sermon, on how we shouldn't be afraid of change. And when it's thrust upon us, we can move into it and embrace it, and we can make our own change within the changes that have happened to us. I mean, I think about people that I have been with in grief, and I can think of a couple of times in particular when I've given advice that was received, acted upon, and then afterwards they thanked me for that advice. So maybe I got it right. But people who've been grieving, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a husband or a wife, and just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. And it's like, well, you don't want to make any major choices right now while you're grieving, but why don't you think about repainting your house? Why don't you think about making that change in your house that you always wanted to make but weren't going to do while he was alive or while she was alive? And, it seems weird to say that, but it gives people a project and it allows them to personalize their space to make it their own. And so I can distinctly recall one in particular, but a couple generally, but one in particular who just, repainted, redesigned the bedroom and repainted the bedroom and the living room, and just talked about how it just made the house feel like hers. She had not forgotten about her husband. She hadn't stopped grieving, but she felt more comfortable in her space. It was no longer his space, it was hers. And she loved him, so he was still there with her in that sense, that connection through love. But it felt like a positive thing. Other people I know who have, left their house unchanged 15 years after their partner has died, and you'll go and visit, an older gentleman, and the house is filled with the figurines that his wife collected, and you go like, okay, um, everybody gets to make their choices. So is this Abraham going, all right, so I'm grieving, but the way I'm going to grieve is I'm going to move into this, I'm going to pivot, because the world is pivoting with me, it's changing, I might as well set down my roots now. And maybe if I was his son, I go, well, gee, Dad, I wish you'd done that 20 years ago. But doesn't matter, I'm doing it now. So he's done a thing. So he is now shaping his future. So it's not just going to be the future without Sarah. It is now the future as a resident. The future as someone who now owns land. So he's shaping his future in a positive. Like I said, I don't think it'll make a compelling sermon. But the text does make me think about that. Otherwise, I just don't understand why now he buys the land. I mean, yes, he uses having a place to bury Sarah as his excuse. But before, I reflected on how he's planting trees 20 years ago, which is a sign of putting down roots, quite literally. And nomads don't plant trees, but people sticking around do. So he's been planning this for some time, and God has promised him that this is the land that he would possess, but he's bought no possession in the land until now. And I'm at a loss for why he would do that now, other than I'm grieving my wife. This is going to be hard, but I'm going to create a positive in this moment. So I can wonder about that. The other thing I can wonder about is what I've come to understand is a ritual, a custom for negotiating the land. So it would be the proper thing to do is in this formal sort of situation is to identify what you would like and offer to pay full price for it. And then the person who owns the land in respect would say, no, don't pay me anything, let me give it to you. And then properly, out of respect, you would refuse that offer. So when they make the offer, they know you're going to refuse it. And so you make an offer to buy it, and then they assess what it's worth, and the amount that they assess is probably less than full price. So let's say this land was worth 800 shekels. So he offers to pay full price. Says, no, let me give it to you. No, I insist that I pay you. Well, then you know what? You can pay me 400 shekels. And then I will absolutely pay you 400 shekels. So there's been a negotiation there. And it's customary. If Abraham had taken the offer of free land, the crowd would have been shocked. I think Ephron would have been stuck and would have had to give it to him. He's not going to go back on your word. But Ephron makes the offer, fully expecting Abraham to say no. And so there's a ritual around hospitality. There's a ritual around respect. And I like that it is born of that. So, there's this sense of, I will be vulnerable with you. So I'm going to come and tell you what I need. And I'm going to tell you then to take what you need without paying me. And then I'm going to insist that I pay you. And then, I am going to make an offer that I can live with, but I think is also a kindness to you. This isn't me putting a for sale sign up. This is me, giving us something where we can respect each other. And so that you can feel that, yes, the land is yours. You have paid for it. But I haven't gouged you. I haven't put it out on the market. So there is a kindness and a respect built into the ritual. And when I reflect on that, I confess that I like it. I don't know. I suppose I could try to preach and say, and that kindness, that sense of hospitality comes from God. So this is a story about God without it being about God. But I'd be a little disingenuous in that, because I think that without God, as it were, we can create rituals of hospitality and compassion and kindness. I don't think that somebody who doesn't believe in God lacks compassion. What I suppose would be the risk if I did not believe somehow in the benevolence of the universe, if I did not believe in God, is that I might grow to forget what inspires the ritual, where the compassion lies in the ritual. This is a ritual about compassion, being kind, and being respectful. And I can see how you get to a point where you just go through the motions. And you can do this whole negotiation very quickly, going, "Yeah, can I have your garage? Yeah, okay. If you want, I'll give you the garage. Nah, never mind. I'll pay you for it. Obviously, I'll give you lots of money. Well, okay, I'll take a little money. Okay, great, done." And they don't even think about the respect. Really, they just go through the motions. And I have been part of that. I mean, even if it's just something as simple as how are you? I'm fine. Good to see you. It's a ritual where I acknowledge that I would like to know how you are. How is it with you? But I don't really want to know because I don't have time for your emotions and your feelings. And you know that. You don't really want to tell me because I don't know if I want to be vulnerable with Norm. If he knows that I'm down a little bit right now, he may take advantage of that. I don't know how, but he might. So I'll just say, "Oh, I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. Good to see you. Good to see you too." We don't mean any of that. We don't not mean it, but we're not actually thinking it through. Part of what happens for me in my faith is that more often than not, I think, and maybe only slightly more often than not, when I ask somebody how they are, I really do want to hear. And if they respond with the ritual that we don't even think about, "I'm fine, how are you?" I'm okay with that too, and I fit right into it. But if they do take that moment to start to talk about how they're really feeling about somebody or something, or what's really going on in their lives, it is part of my faith that opens my ears and my heart, that I then really do listen and I can connect in compassion. Because I'll be honest, there are times when I am weary and tired of it all, but my faith gives me that little more energy, a little more time to listen and to engage. So my faith helps me keep the intent of the ritual alive and keep me present to the intent of the ritual. So when I ask how you are, I really mean it. If I offer to give you my land, I really do mean it. And if you took it, I would not scream in protest. Or indeed, if you offered me your land for free and I offered to pay, and you then hit me with a price, I am not going to go like, "Well, that's not fair." I would go forward with respect and compassion, and my faith helps me do that. So I can see a place for God in this, but more than that, what I really see in this, just as a piece of text, is this wonderful ritual of what we might call haggling, but negotiating, and it is part of the culture, and it's really based on respect. It's not a disrespectful thing. A lot of people I know who have been raised in my culture, when we meet haggling people who want that negotiation, we carry on as if they're disrespecting us. And we can't. It's like, "Oh, just tell me the price and I'll pay you." No, but there's a back and forth with this, where I ask for this much and you offer me this much, and then I come down a little bit and you come up a little bit. And so when we find that place in the middle, we are assured ritually, and we hope realistically, that we are both getting a fair bargain, that we both can feel good about it. I'm not taking advantage of you, you're not taking advantage of me. We actually ritually found our place in the middle where we can both be satisfied. And there's nothing wrong with that. That actually is a sign of respect, not disrespect, which my culture often sees it as disrespect. So I don't know what else is in this that's worth sharing, or worth wondering about for me. Yeah, no, you know what? I'm going to stop there. I think I'm going to let it go and leave it for you. Perhaps there's something that I'm missing that is worthy of some contemplation and some wondering. But you know what? For now, I'm going to say a prayer, and then I'm going to let a little more time go by, and we'll come back at this again tomorrow. So let us pray. Loving God, we thank you for this time of wondering, this opportunity to engage in Scripture, in a story that it just essentially assures us that life goes on, even after dramatic, traumatic events, even in grief after the death of a loved one. Life goes on. And as life goes on, we discover that rituals and habits help shape our life. But without you, sometimes those rituals and habits can make us possible for us to go through life without giving things meaning. So God, thank you for your presence that reminds us always where these rituals come from, where these habits come from, the compassion, the respect. God, we ask for some time today to wonder about our own lives and how we show compassion and respect in the things that we do. God, we thank you for this time, and we ask that what we wonder about today, what we learn today, stay with us, grow within us, and may it bring us closer to you. We pray in the name of Jesus, through the Holy Spirit. Amen. So that's enough for me today, but I will have some more for you tomorrow, and who knows, maybe we'll be a little more on note tomorrow. Because I'm still thinking I must have missed something here, but who knows? Anyway, until I see you again, God bless you. Please know that God sees you, God knows you, God loves you, and God's love moves through you in remarkable ways. God bless you. See you tomorrow.